Hey guys, it's Penguin here, and welcome back to another gold making video. In this video, I'm going to be highlighting a handful, I think I have about 8 items on this list of my favorite beginner-friendly items for Mage Tower. Now what I mean by beginner-friendly is that a lot of these items do not require any reputation, and a lot of them are just strictly learned at the trainer. So of course, some of these will be old world, so if you are only just started in Shadowlands, you might have to do some leveling of some old world professions, but I've tried to keep all of the reputation necessary stuff out of this to hopefully give you an easier time. Also, keep in mind that there is a ton of items on the Mage Tower list, and in the description there should be a link to my Mage Tower time walking spreadsheet, which you can go check out if you want a full list and how to get those items on everything popular about the Mage Tower. But these are my few favorites, and I hope you enjoy. And as always, if this is your first time being here, welcome, and if you enjoy this video, feel free to like and possibly subscribe if you want to see more content. But without further ado, here is the first item. And the first item on this list, which actually a lot of this list, looking at it right now, is from BfA, but the first one we have are the War Scrolls. So there are 3 different types of War Scrolls, which is the War Scroll of Intellect, Battle Cry, and Fortitude. So they're all just require simple crimson ink, which you can get by milling the standard BfA herbs, and you can craft these War Scrolls. They are kind of similar to missives if you do Shadowlands, but a lot easier to craft. Now, I do want to point out, if you guys do want to craft these, I highly recommend getting the BFA crafting enchant. Put that on your armor piece, and then you'll be able to craft inks, as well as these War Scrolls super fast. Sadly, Shadowlands does not have this enchant, but definitely utilize BFA if you want to use this item. But this item, a ton of people use as its best in slot for that kind of gear enhancement, and a lot of people need these, and last time, I'm pretty sure I made most of my money through gems as well as these War Scrolls. So I highly recommend, and we're going to move on to the next one, which, speaking of gems, is the BfA gems, the Leviathan's Eye, as well as the Kraken's Eye. So both of these are from different stages of BfA Jewelcrafting. Highly recommend just leveling up the profession, and you'll unlock these both by the trainer. And generally the Kraken's Eye is a lot cheaper, and you can either buy the uncut version on the auction house. For example, I was able to pick up a few hundred for like the 50 gold mark, even less sometimes. And if the actual uncut gem is already reset or purchased, definitely you can go to the BfA ores and maybe find some, cheap ores. Same goes with the Leviathan's Eye. Try to buy them uncut, then you can cut them yourself, or if not, you can try to find cheap osmonite or whatever you need in order to actually prospect for them. But both of these are good. They each have a few versions, like there's agility, intellect, etc. So I normally, starting off, just craft an even amount of each, and then of course if you notice one is selling a lot more, then maybe double up on that one and, kind of even it out by how much you're selling. But those are 2 great gems, and we're going to move on to the third item, which is drums. And for these drums, I'm specifically talking about the Drums of Fury, which is from Draenor Leatherworking, as well as the Drums of Ferocity, which comes from Shadowlands. So technically in Mage Tower, every single drum acts the same. So the same buff is given from the Drums of Fury as the current content drums from Shadowlands. So technically, you can craft any drum from any expansion. However, I have noticed that these 2 sell the best and generally are pretty cheap with good profit margins, so that's why I recommend these. However, there's like the Maelstrom, drums and all of that, then you can of course craft if it's profitable as well. But Drums of Fury is very easy to unlock, very cheap to craft if you can find some raw beast hide for cheap, and it's from Draenor Leatherworking. And then, of course, the bonus is that Shadowlands Leatherworking, a lot of people are currently making gold with that and selling the drums already. Maybe you want to double your stock or, craft a little bit more to hopefully get some extra Mage Tower sales. But both of those are super awesome. Moving on, we have BfA Alchemy. Now, there are a ton of potions on the best in slot list that comes from BfA Alchemy, so a picture should be on screen that kind of highlights those. However, as always, the big one that a ton of people made money with was the Unbridled Fury potions. So, this potion strictly just requires, of course, a vial and the zenithid, which is probably very expensive at this point. If not, feel free to pick some up. Of course, you can farm it if you would prefer to do that. But craft these Unbridled Fury potions, and normally these are super awesome, along with the other ones on the list as well. A good thing to note is that the tools of the trade, which were basically kind of these items that you were able to unlock through different quest lines during BFA that would give you an extra bonus. The tools of the trade for alchemy, aka the silliest proc, basically allows you to have multiple crafts in a single craft, so you can get those bonus procs of potions. So if you do see the profit looks a little bit weird and a ton of people are crafting them, but it just doesn't look like profit, it's probably because they have that extra proc chance, which is allowing them to make, more potions for their crafting materials. But especially if you did BfA Alchemy last expansion and you already have the tools of the trade, definitely use it to your advantage. It will be very, very awesome and make you a ton more gold. Now, we're about halfway through this list. I know I'm trying to make this video as short and sweet as possible, trying to give you all that information. So the next one is yet again another gem, and this is the Crimson Spinel. Now, there are a ton of Kata and TBC gems that are on this list, but a lot of them require either dailies, some reputation, etc. But personally, the Crimson Spinel is very, very easy to get in my opinion, and I've been very successful with selling this last Mage Tower. So in order to unlock this gem, you will need Friendly with the Scale of the Sands. However, it is very easy to get Friendly. All you have to do is complete like 1 or 2 quests. You can look it up on Wowhead or YouTube, anything like that. But you complete these 1 to 2 quests, it will unlock Friendly. Then all you have to do is go into the Battle of Mount Hydril scenario in the Times of Caverns. And then there's a vendor right there in Dormy, and you can buy the recipes right there. So the recipes do take a little bit extra effort, but you will not be grinding for hours on end for reputation, and also that little bit of effort can go a long way in terms of competition. Some people are lazy and will just completely ignore that item, even though it's pretty easy to get. Then moving on, we have enchants. Now, like I said before, similar to the potions, there are a ton of different enchants on this list. But as always, there's 2 I want to highlight. The first one being the Crusader enchant, which is probably the most popular enchant on this list. Whether you do Mage Tower or not, you've probably heard of the Crusader enchant at some point if you do anything whatsoever with old world enchants, and by far it is a great seller, especially during the Mage Tower. The great thing about this enchant is that you can buy the recipe off the auction house. It is a farmable recipe that I believe took me about 30 minutes to acquire. But if you're somebody that does not like to farm, you might have to pay a premium depending on how many are on the auction house, but you definitely can take that hit in investment if that's something you want to do. But either way, the Crusader enchant is really good, even despite the nerfs that it got last time. It's still really, really good and best in slot. The other one I want to highlight is the Eternal Stats, which is actually from Shadowlands. And this is an enchant that if you are actively doing Shadowlands enchanting, that you are probably selling on a daily basis. So kind of referring to like the Shadowlands gems that we talked about earlier, be sure to just stock up a little bit extra or be more aware to see if you're selling more faster, and if so, Just make sure, you might want to double up or triple up depending on how many you have stocked at once. And then also there is just a good handful of BFA enchants that are simple to obtain as well. It's just strictly a trainer, and there's like the Accord of Critical Strike, stuff like that, very easy. So if you did BFA Enchanting in the past, you probably have those recipes and they probably are pretty cheap to craft. Go ahead and throw those on the auction house as well. Then lastly, we have the Panda Inscriptions. So this is from Panda Inscription, and they are simply called inscriptions. For example, there is the Tiger Claw inscription, and there are 3 of them in total, and they sell just like enchants. Basically, they are an enchant, however, you craft them through inscription, and normally on most servers, they are very, very cheap. If you cannot actually buy the ink cheap enough, you can buy a ton of cheap panda herbs, mill them, craft the ink, and then of course craft the inscriptions. Now on my server in the past, I was only able to sell them for about 400 to 500 gold each. However, my crafting cost was sometimes sub 100 gold or even like 120 gold-ish, and I was selling anywhere between 400 and 500, maybe, 250, 300 on a bad day. So of course I was more than doubling my money. Of course, you're not selling, tens of thousands of gold at once, but sell a handful of these and they add up pretty quickly. But that is kind of my quick list of my 8 favorite items that I personally have been stocking up that were very successful last Mage Tower. Now, one thing to note, if you guys do not know, the Mage Tower is released the day of this video, so sales should start picking up, and the Mage Tower is now permanent. So if you guys haven't already, and you are selling Mage Tower stuff, highly recommend if you use TSM, create yourself a little group, get that setup going, put those crafting operations, auctioning operations attached, and then you basically just have a good old world setup. Unlike last time where these items would only be good for 2 weeks, they're now going to be good until the Mage Tower for some reason is removed from the game, which will more than likely not happen. So start getting into routine of restocking these items, looking out for those cheap old world materials, and just make sure, try your best not to forget about this market within a few weeks or a few months. But thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you're excited to sell, what's been selling well if you've been getting some of those pre-release sales, and as always, have a good day.